Hello and welcome. This is Insha Noreen, journalist at Food Ingredients First. Kerry has revealed its 2026 global taste charts, highlighting emerging flavor directions that are influencing how sweetness is delivered across food and beverages. To tell us more about it and the sweetness in beverages and foods, Guillaume Blancher, Global Portfolio Director for Sweetness at Kerry, is joining us today. Welcome, Guillaume.
Good morning. Thank you, Insha, for the introduction.
Great. Guam, I would like to start with asking you how are sugar taxes and rules on high fat, sugar, or salt foods reshaping how sweetness is formulated today?
Sure. So the acronym High Fat, Sugar and Salt, or HFSS, sorry, is quite specific to the UK. So notably in the UK, the government has taken specific actions, including restrictions regarding marketing and promotion of those products too rich in fat, sugar, and salt. In our conversation today, we'll focus mostly on sugar and sweetness. Beyond the UK, a growing number of countries around the world continue to drive the reformulation of sugar-sweetened beverages through mainly two angles, sugar taxes and front-of-pack labeling regulations. Beverages, not surprisingly, are the primary target of those policies because they are the leading source of added sugar in our diet. Overall, consumers over the world have embraced this change, driven at its core by health motivations that, again, people really embrace and understand. We have seen important changes in the sugar tax landscape around the world over the past 25 years in pretty much all continents, Europe, Africa, Latin America, and Asia. And even now the US, with several cities already imposing their own taxes on sugar drinks. It is important to note that in many countries, not only those beverages containing sugar are subject to taxes, but also those containing high-intensity sweeteners, for example, France and Mexico. We have also seen an acceleration of measures in favor of front-of-pack labeling of added sugar in the past 10 years, with either mandatory labeling, like in Mexico, with the Octagon system, or voluntary measures, like in Europe, with the Nutri-Score system, where some countries have decided to adopt it, and then in those countries, the CPG companies are free to choose to participate or not. In the US, the proposal for front-of-pack nutrition labeling, which targets added sugar, among other things, is still under discussion. So we are waiting what is going to happen in 2026. So if you put all this together, all these factors have put pressure on the industry to reformulate their products to reduce the overall sugar content of their beverages and meet consumer demands. If you look at the beverages on the shelves today around the world, you will see a quite important diversity in the formulations. First, in all countries, you will find, of course, full sugar products. Those products still exist and they are still consumed by certain consumers. In some countries, you can find so-called hybrid products or mid-cal products. These are the products that contain both sugar and sweeteners, usually artificial sweeteners. These so-called hybrid products are particularly popular in Latin America and parts of Asia. Now, if you go down to zero sugar, then those zero sugar products are another type of commercially successful products globally. In the US, where food ingredient innovation usually comes first, we have seen novel sweeteners, for example, allulose, appear over the years, offering notable formulation advantages. But the use of allulose is still limited because of dosage and because of high price. Now, if you look at the use of stevia and monk fruit as sweeteners is becoming more and more common in beverages in the US, especially for those consumers who are looking for more like health-connoted products like prebiotic beverages, for example, where consumers demand natural sweeteners and are also willing to pay more. Finally, in the US, you see some novel type of labeling appearing. For example, certain fractions of stevia, like Rebalancing, for example, have made their way on the ingredient list of a number of products in the US. So I would say this increased number of products on the shelf and the accelerated rate of reformulation has created a number of challenges and opportunities. There is now quite important fragmentation on the consumer side. And Gen Z consumers are very often trying to experiment with new products. They are really willing to try new products. And in all cases, no matter what you reformulate, the new product has to appeal to consumers, of course. And as we all know, almost all sweeteners and sugar alternatives need rebalancing from a taste perspective. So they all come with all these alternatives to sugar come with their unique baggage or shortcomings from a sensory perspective. I'm just two examples quickly. So stevia is delayed in sweetness onset. It has a lingering sweetness. After you swallow, you have this lingering sweet that stays in your mouth. Other sweeteners, like for example, acesulfame K, is maybe more upfront in sweetness compared to stevia, but it has also lingering aftertaste, and it can lack body, like this complexity that you find with sugar. So that's typically where natural flavors and optimal combinations of flavors and sweeteners are the keys to unlocking consumer preference and repeated consumption.
Okay, great. That's really a nice segue into my next question about what are the hardest technical challenges in delivering sugar-like taste at lower levels?
Sure. So taking sugar out of beverages, for example, has multiple implications beyond, the first thing that comes to mind is sweetness intensity, but there are obviously other sensory aspects or technological aspects impacted. What can happen typically in a beverage is that when you remove sugar, you have the bitterness of other ingredients that can come through more strongly. The sour acid ratio that is so important in a lot of these drinks needs to be rebalanced. The mouthfeel and the body of the beverage becomes thin. So, sugar not only brings the sweetness intensity, but also brings it lifts all the other notes in the beverage. Finally, I would say the intensity and the harmony of the characterizing flavor of the beverage, for example, the lemon, the cola, or the strawberry flavor in the beverage also becomes unbalanced. So if you consider a highly sweetened beverage, around 10 Brix, for example, when you go down to, let's say, 7 Brix or 7% sugar, then you have some room to rebalance the product, and you can use natural flavors to help to rebalance the product, still make it a good product from a taste perspective. However, when you reduce even more, when you go down, let's say, to 2%, then it becomes more and more and more challenging, to make a product that tastes similar to the 10% sugar. It becomes impossible. So we spoke a lot about beverages, but then if you take a semi-solid or solid applications like bakery products, for example, then sugar plays additional technological roles. As people know, it helps with water retention, bulking, so it brings volume, and it's also inducing browning during cooking. So replacing sugar, the solutions that have to replace sugar have a big job to do. They need to do many things. And simply put, as I said, the lower the level of sugar, the greater the technical challenges in all these fronts. So as we said before, there is no perfect sugar replacer that is cost effective, that doesn't have the calories of sugar, that has the same volume as sugar, that is not subject to taxes, because as we said, sometimes sugar comes with taxes. Also, that has the same exact time intensity profile from a sensory perspective, that has no off taste, no additional off taste like bitterness or etc., that induces browning in bakery, and that also from a nutrition perspective and health perspective, that does not induce immediate blood sugar spikes or disrupts your microbiome. So again, a big job to do for the sugar replacers. So finding the right combination of sweeteners for the right application and rebalancing it with natural flavors is the challenge that CPG companies face every day. And Kerry is uniquely positioned with its applications and flavor formulation knowledge, sensory and consumer understanding, and a set of differentiated solutions to enable sweetness optimization. So we define sweetness optimization as this holistic approach that consists in meeting the customer, where they are in their reformulation journey. We can help reduce sugar up to 100% with our optimized sweetener and flavor blends like Tastesense Advanced. And we can help customers mask undesirable off-taste of sweeteners, and we can help also rebalance a sugar-reduced product with our natural flavor solutions, combining our Tastesense sweet, masking, and mouthfeel flavor capabilities.
Okay, great. That's really interesting to know. And moving beyond sugar reduction, what do consumers now expect from sweetness in terms of taste and experience?
So we think the sugar reduction trend is still there, but it blends with other trends. So for example, low and no alcohol beverages are now reshaping the beverage market. Consumers, again, particularly the Gen Z consumers, want new experiences with those products like cooling, warming, tingling, or bitterness to emulate a more adult drinking experience or a cocktail-like experience. So we see this desire to experiment. So sweetness is still there, but it becomes more sophisticated and blends in with other complex sensations. Another example is the fact that many consumers on GLP-1 medication will have a higher tendency to choose products that they need for their diet. So they want them to be higher in proteins, low in sugar, and in calories. In our proprietary consumer segmentation study that we released late of last year in 2025, which is called Adapting Appetites, we found that 70% of all consumer segments that say protein influences their purchases, and 50% say that protein now influences their purchase more than before with GLP-1.
Will the future of sweetness rely more on flavor modulation, sweeteners, or hybrid approaches?
So when I look around the world, considering the details of taxes and labeling regulations, I see governments moving in slightly different directions and pushing the food and beverage industry with them in those slightly different directions. For example, to explain what I'm saying, so if the current proposal for front of pack labeling goes through in the US, it could mean push the industry to return to reintroduce mid-cal or hybrid beverages that I spoke about that exist today in Latin America or Asia. So this type of products did exist in the US for a short period of times in the years 2000 and 2010, and then they faded away. But I think they could come back as a viable alternative to full sugar or zero sugar products. So I think to answer your question, I think the future of sweetness will continue to rely on combinations of flavor modulation, sweeteners, and hybrid approaches. I think we'll continue to see those three come together, and Kerry will continue to follow the evolution of taxes, labeling regulation, food ingredient innovation, and consumer trends to always innovate in the right direction and have solutions that satisfy the industry many demands in the sweetness optimization space.
Okay. And in future, as the laws and regulations evolve, how will the definition of good sweetness evolve over maybe the next 10 years?
Yeah, so I really like this question because it's almost a philosophical question, right? So, and the answer maybe depends on how you define the word good or how you consider it in what context. So I think again it's a really interesting question. I'll do my best to answer in different ways. So I think you could understand good as good for you, meaning from a nutrition and health perspective. So meaning nutritious and not harmful, right? So sugar itself is not bad, right? Sugar brings nutrition. However, we all know it's the excess of it in the diet that causes issues. So sugar reduction efforts just do that. They reduce sugar, but they don't bring nutrients most of the time. You know, we talked about high intensity sweeteners, etc. They don't bring calories, so they don't bring nutrition. They don't bring anything else. So this may explain the repositioning of leading beverage companies that we have seen over the past couple of years to create novel, sweet, refreshing beverages that are more healthy, right? I mean, some are higher in protein for nutrition, others are rich in soluble fibers for health. Others are rich in electrolytes for hydration, and others are rich in probiotic with positive effects on our microbiome or on our immunity. So it's an entirely new set of beverages that you see on the market now, and all these ingredients intend to help us to stay healthy. Marrying these functional ingredients, which may again have their own taste challenges, and making them into a tasty, sweet tasting beverage is also really important. And it's a trend. And I believe this will amplify in the next 5 years. So rather than looking for the perfect sugar replacer, probably the beverage industry has taken a step aside and is redefining why we drink refreshing beverages. And we believe this trend will continue. A second way to answer your question is good as we could understand good as it tastes good, right? Meaning it's indulgent. So this is something I believe that will always be there. Staying tuned to market trends, to food ingredient innovation, and most importantly to consumer trends is what sets Kerry aside. So you were referring to the taste chart earlier. So the Kerry taste chart 2026, I think, is a perfect illustration of how Kerry keeps the pulse on early consumer trends before they fully emerge as mainstream and fully embraces them. So another way to look at good is to think good sweetness is to think about something more personal, more deeply personal. What is good for you, Incha, maybe not good for me, Guillaume. And maybe from a nutrition perspective or from a taste perspective, like we just discussed before. So maybe less intuitively, maybe also from a sustainability perspective, meaning better for the planet. Maybe you care about the carbon contribution of your drink, and knowing that your drink is more sustainable than another one may influence your choices. This is also something Kerry can help with its water and CO2 emission calculator that can clearly show customers the positive sustainable impact of using Kerry Tastesense solutions to help reduce sugar. Finally, a last thought, and maybe there are other ways to look at this, but good for you may also mean something that you can afford. Unfortunately, with food insecurity on the rise globally, affordability must stay on everybody's mind. So we think affordability will continue to be an important topic in the next 5 years, and Kerry's sweetness optimization solutions encompass different price points to accommodate different cost in use objectives of different customers in different markets.